Are you a business owner looking for real advice and input? You're in the right place. From concept to launch to growth, funding, and beyond. Welcome to Startup Hustle with your hosts. One once sold a business for $150 million. The other, the author of $1 Million Bedroom. Here are your hosts of Startup Hustle, Matt DeCoursey and Matt Watson.
And we're back. Another episode of Startup Hustle. Matt DeCoursey here with Kemet Coleman, who'll be sitting in for Matt Watson today. Kemet, what's up?
What's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Before we get started, I got to let everyone know that the Startup Hustle podcast is brought to you by Fullscale.io, which is not the business that you and I own together, but it is the business that Matt Watson and I own together.
I would love to be the other Matt's body double.
Yeah, well, you look a lot like him. You guys are almost like, I feel like I'm looking at Matt right now.
Wow. All right.
But Kemet, I introduced you as Kemet Coleman, but you're better known as Kemet the Phantom.
That's right.
And then what does the Phantom do? The Phantom is an urbanist, a musician, and an entrepreneur. And you know what, man? You're like one of my favorite KC artists.
Whoa, that's a huge compliment.
Maybe
Thanks.
even the KC artist.
Man.
Because I listen to your albums, man.
All right. Well,
yeah,
thanks.
I do. I've
Appreciate
got a couple fallback ones. But we're going to talk about not only the new album that you just put out, which is called Electric Park. So those of you listening know I want you to keep it interactive. So do me a favor right now and go add that to whatever your playlist is. Like, just go. It's on. I added in my iTunes library, and
yeah,
it's out there.
It sure is. Sure as heck is.
Yeah, congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's been a good ride so far.
How many albums is that now? It's a bunch.
Some of those have been tucked away, not for consumption anymore. But I mean, if I were to total all of those, it'd probably be 12.
12 albums?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I look at like my books and I'm like, God, there's so much work. You know, the best part about writing a book is finishing it. Is that the same? Is that the same with an album?
Oh man, you have no idea. Yeah.
So for those of you that aren't familiar with Kemet's work, you can find him under Kemet the Phantom. He also performs as Kemet Coleman. You are featured as Kemet the Phantom, but
That's
you
right.
can find Kemet Coleman somewhere. And then you have a band at times, the Phantastics, and that's with a PH.
That's right.
Those dudes are good too.
We like to party.
I like it. They're funky, you know. Like,
yeah.
And then also, I appreciate any music that's like with a live hip hop feel that's got actual musicians and not just a DJ. And
totally.
I'm sure you throw that out sometimes too, because you can't always bring a band with you. But
no, yeah.
Like I remember one of the greatest hip hop shows I ever saw was Jay-Z.
Mm-hmm.
That dude's band is good.
I think it might have been the Roots.
Yeah. It was close. It was in
Yeah.
Indianapolis, and we were in the front row.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
My wife barfed on my shoe that night.
I don't know if we need to elaborate about that.
Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. If she ever listens to this, she's going to punch me. So Kemet, what's an urbanist?
An urbanist is, I have my own definition of urbanism, but basically, I am fascinated with the built environment. So that means, how humans interact with our neighborhoods, how we interact with our infrastructure in general, and what makes it more efficient, what makes it beautiful, what makes it ugly, what makes it equitable, what makes it all of those things.
Okay, so music is part of that culture, right?
Absolutely.
And so as an urbanist and a musician, how do those worlds collide, and how do you use your art and your music to do any of that? Yeah,
I think it took me a while to get here, but I've always been fascinated with cities. My family definitely traveled across the country in a car, in a vehicle. We never really flew a lot, so I got to see a ton of different cities. I've been to almost every state except Maine. And I got to contrast cities, and, my family wasn't from Kansas City. And so they would always kind of talk trash on KC. They were like, oh, it's not as good, and I was from here. I was the only one, from Kansas City, from my family, except for my other two brothers, but they were much older. So anyway, I started gaining appreciation for Kansas City, and then thus an appreciation for urbanism, because Kansas City had a lot of cool parts about it that, I just kept driving by. So anyway, fast forward to now, I feel like one of my responsibilities as someone from Kansas City, kind of a small market town, but definitely has a lot of legs, is to showcase, the good, the bad, and the ugly that we deal with on a daily basis. And when we walk outside, like, what do we see? How does it affect us in our daily lives? How does it affect our minds as creatives, as entrepreneurs? So I like to inspire people by just telling stories about what Kansas City had to offer. And, a lot of my focus is Kansas City, but I'm also very interested in traveling to other cities and doing the same thing. I was in Savannah, Georgia, about a year ago, and just fell in love with the different streetscapes, all of the town squares that they had. It was super walkable. I'm very fascinated with all of that. And, how do I tie that in with music? Well, I released an album called Electric Park, which was Electric Park was a theme park here in Kansas City that is no longer there. Now it's basically a housing project where it was, but it's the theme park that inspired Walt Disney to create Disney World. No one knows that story, and I think that's important.
A lot of people don't realize that Walt's from Kansas City.
Exactly.
I mean, he is like, and if we had to pick the most famous person ever from Kansas City, it's probably Walt Disney.
It is literally Walt Disney.
There are other people that are from KC, like, President Truman.
Yeah.
Some other people, but everybody knows Walt.
Everybody.
Walt was kind of wild and crazy. People don't know that.
Exactly. Yeah.
He was experimental. We'll
Clearly.
say that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
with his lifestyle and his art.
Yeah.
So now you talk about, if you're going to be an urbanist, that means you also need to be a realist, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I consider myself a realist.
Yes, you do.
It's been in the title of 2 different books that I've written, and I've known you for a little while, and I just recently published a book about music, and I'm not a good musician. I mean, I'm not you. I'm not like the guys in the Phantastics.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate what musicians do and the hustle. I worked in the music industry for a long time, and that whole thing is like the tip of an iceberg. But when you're a realist, you have to accept certain things as what they are, and that usually means accepting them as difficult.
Absolutely.
Which means if you want to do something with it, you have to accept that it's difficult.
Right.
And put on your armor and get ready to go, right?
Exactly.
Is it easy to be a working musician?
No, it is not.
Right, yeah.
No, it is not easy at all.
And for those of you that are listening, you should probably go to the Startup Hustle YouTube channel and look at Kemet's face when that it's about 7.5 minutes is about where we're at.
Right.
But your face kind of said it all there, because anytime I think a lot of people look at musicians and say, oh, wow, they got discovered.
Right.
Or, oh, well, here they are, and blah, blah, blah. The fact is, most of those people had been doing it for a long time. And it started like when you were a kid. Is that how it started for you?
Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely started when, I was 13 years old writing raps for my friend who didn't know he was a rapper. I was definitely trying to be in a group and make sure that, my musical inklings were satisfied. So, yeah, definitely it started, and I'm still doing it and really can't help it, honestly.
Yeah, music is, I think, something that calls you.
Yeah.
It kind of forces you into it. And if you're trying to get into it for any other reason than being passionate about it, you're going to fail. Yeah,
or you're going to fail, or you're going to, people are going to see right through that, and call you fake.
Well, it's hard, some of the things we talked about in the book. So, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I just wrote a book called The Realist Guide to a Successful Music Career. And I had to go way back in my own history. So I used to work for Roland. And Roland's like just a monster musical instrument manufacturer. And we just had 808 Day. Did you see my 808 inspired shoes?
No, but were they gold?
No, they were not. They looked like they were themed like the Roland 808.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is an iconic synthesizer. And, if anybody that listens to hip hop has heard somebody talk about the 808. So August 8th is 808 Day. Now, your album came out on August 16th, which was 816 Day, which is the area code. That's in KC Mo.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, back to the urbanist thing and the storytelling.
Sure.
I think and you're an entrepreneur as well, but all highly successful entrepreneurs are also storytellers.
Yes.
In many ways. And the reason why is that, to tell stories is to transfer knowledge, but to tell stories is also to make people aware and also part of selling anything.
Absolutely.
You're telling the story about why there's a problem and why there's a solution and why you're going to help fix that.
Yeah.
So some of the things, and we breeze right past this, but you're involved in some stuff here. So Kansas City, and I know a good portion of the people listening aren't in Kansas City.
Yeah.
But if you've listened regularly, you know that's where we're at. That's our home. You kind of alluded earlier. There's not Kansas City is not the sexiest name that we can drop for cities. Like we're not Los Angeles or New York, and I don't think we want to be.
Yeah.
We're right here in the middle of the country. I travel all over, and people will be like, "Oh, Kansas, are you a cowboy? Are you from a farm?" I'm like, "No, man, I live in a city, just like this one."
Yeah.
But Kansas City has gone through some ups and some downs. Kansas City, Missouri, downtown especially.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there was a time I didn't go down. I didn't go down there 20 years ago, and now it's like the place to be.
Yeah, totally.
So some of the stuff that you're doing is involving like I don't know if we want to call it redevelopment or improvement or awareness around the Troost Avenue corridor, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I was born and raised on Troost, around 75th Street. And for those out there, Troost has been the dividing line in Kansas City as far as racial development goes, and
also somewhat like the name that drew the line around like where you could find some different types of scandal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just meaning like, I mean, growing up here, people would always be like, "Oh, you go down to Troost and find some trouble."
Yeah, it's.
We'll leave it that general, but it was very iconic as far as like the dividing line mentally is what we would talk about.
Yeah, no, it wasn't there's not a wall there, but everybody knew, that what it was. So yeah, definitely. Truce is definitely near and dear to me. I think that it can be a beautiful thing. And this going back to the urbanist thing, I mean, one of the things that I try to focus on as an urbanist is, not only storytelling piece, but oral histories. And, a city doesn't have an identity unless it knows its oral histories. So that's what I'm trying to focus on as well, is making sure that some of these stories go viral from a word of mouth perspective. I don't really care about, honestly, I don't care about fanfare across, the media or anything like that. I just want people in their cities to understand that your story is important. And when people from out of town come to your city, you need to be able to tell them something that fascinates them and that gives you pride and joy, the good, bad, and the ugly. So.
Kansas City is loaded with stories like that, and I think a lot of people don't realize, Kansas City as a metropolitan area is divided by a state line. Kansas City is largely not in Kansas, people.
Yeah.
It is almost like the parts that of, quote, Kansas City are mostly in Missouri.
Absolutely.
And people don't also know that there's a downtown Kansas City, Kansas, which, by the way, could use some urbanist upgrades.
Yeah, it's getting there.
And then you have Kansas City, Missouri, which is like where the Chiefs are. That's where the Royals are. That's where the Sprint Center is. It's really where most of the action is.
Yeah.
And then past that, Kansas City's largely suburban.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look back in the history of things, at one point, Kansas City, and there's an area here called Westport, which was the port that you would stop at before you really kind of got out to the west. And, the Santa Fe Trail ran through here. There's all kinds
of history. Yeah, Westport was here before.
All kinds of shit to look back for Kansas City. Some of it we can be proud of, and some of it maybe not.
Right.
And there was all kinds of stuff, but there's definitely stories here.
Yeah, totally. I mean, a lot of things. Yeah, it's a huge history. I've got a Rolodex of information back here. We should not focus on that.
My mom's great-great-grandfather was once the sheriff of Westport.
Are you serious?
Isn't that crazy?
That is nuts.
That's like old.
When it was the town of Westport?
His name's on that statue. There's a covered wagon statue and Daniel Boone's name on it. So is his.
That's nuts.
Daniel Booker.
Booker. All right.
Yeah, man.
Good to know.
Just weird, man.
I had no idea.
But people that are from here have a lot of pride here. I still have yet to find barbecue that stacks up with us.
Yeah, good luck.
If they'd quit naming shit like Kansas City Masterpiece.
Yeah.
That's not a good representation of our barbecue, by the way.
Exactly.
But anyway, so... as a musician, you're kind of forced to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. In Kansas City, especially.
Anywhere.
Well, yeah, definitely.
I mean, because all right. So the book that just came out, The Realist Guide to Successful Music Career, I was able to get my co-author, who's the keyboardist in Humphreys McGee, which is a band most people haven't heard of, and they're freaking big.
They're huge.
I mean, they sold out, filling up Red Rocks 3 nights in a row. Just this last weekend, they played in Indianapolis for 5,000 people.
Their fans are the biggest fans.
How hard is it to get 5,000 people to pay $50 a head?
It's pretty difficult.
It's not easy.
It's not.
I know. Some people I've talked to, they're like, oh, well, are those really rock stars? Yeah, those are rock stars. You're rock stars.
Yeah, they're rock stars.
You're a rock star if you can get 1,000 people a night across the country.
Totally.
I mean, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I have a history in the ticket business, and I learned very quickly the difference between what's popular and what people are passionate about.
Right.
Because I've seen, we had deals with teams and venues, and I ate front row tickets for bands that had #1 hits because no one gave a shit.
Exactly.
Because they were just popular.
Right.
I mean,
they were just hot for the moment.
People weren't exactly passionate about it, and if you want to move people or get them to care or pay a premium for something or any of that, a level of passion has to exist, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I guess that's another thing that I'm focusing on too, just for my own musical career, is kind of letting people inside. With the name The Phantom, it's like, who knows? It's like, I'm either here, not there.
Are you here right now?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
I might be. I might not be.
If you want to see a picture of Kemet here, you can go to @StartupHustle Podcast on Instagram, because I will capture the Phantom.
Oh no!
With a photograph. I'm gonna do it right now.
I got caught.
Maybe take one right now. Here we go. So there we go.
We're taking a picture of you.
There.
You guys.
Boom.
I'm a cheese.
Boom. All right. Done. We have captured the Phantom.
We did it.
So, back to talking about like what you do and some of the recent reference I had. So in this book that we wrote, which was a bestseller, which was crazy. Well, that was cool.
Congrats, man.
But thanks.
Yeah.
But Joel, my co-author, was able to wrangle all kinds of artists in there. So Huey Lewis.
Wow.
Dude was huge. He's got like multiple like international multi-platinum. He was one of the most recognizable names and faces in music in the mid to late 80s, right?
Wow, yeah.
I mean,
Huey Lewis, yeah.
I mean, and some people are going, who's Huey Lewis? Like, he did the main, he really popped when Back to the Future came out, The Power of Love.
Yeah, oh, that's right. Yeah.
That was the main thing that really like made him pop. But, you look back at like, so he had been around for a while before that.
Right.
And now he doesn't do a ton of stuff. But the very first thing he said when interviewed was, I don't know a goddamn thing about the modern music business. Because it's changed a lot, right?
It changes every day, every hour.
It's changed in the last decade. And you and I were talking about this before we hit record, but just like the technology, the way, like, people don't get record deals anymore.
Exactly, yeah.
But 20 years ago, that's what you
had to do, yeah.
And it was about the record deals. It was about selling vinyl or tapes or CDs.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago, the enemy was anything shared.
Right.
And now,
totally.
And now that's the key.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it really is. I mean, I kind of grew up in a weird spot, because I remember those days.
Yeah, so do I.
When it was that, but I'm still young enough to like be fully ingrained in this whole sharing industry now. It's much different. It really takes either a large amount of money to get to where you need to go, or you need to have something really special.
And when you say large amount of money, I mean there are still record labels and they push, they're pushing the brand.
Right.
But the thing that I like about the thing that's these changes is I feel like it's pushed things back to live.
Yeah, it has.
Like, you got to be good live, and you got to put out a good show.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, for a while there, that was a little questionable. Record companies and Disney and places like that, they're still going to create your stars.
Yeah.
My daughter loves JoJo Siwa, but doesn't know why.
Yeah.
It's just, she's there.
Yeah.
And
she's available.
And I'm not sure that she's super talented. I went and saw her live. It was exactly okay.
Yeah.
Went and saw the New Kids on the Block in the Full Scale Suite.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like you weren't there for that.
I
one, were
wasn't.
you?
No.
What was the last one you came to? Was that Shawn Mendes?
Shawn Mendes, yeah.
Okay, so that's a good example. So
Yeah.
that's actually a perfect example.
Yeah.
He was a Vine star.
Oh, was he?
Does
I
Vine
didn't
even
know.
exist anymore? It doesn't, does it?
Not technically, but all of the kids still enjoy Vines and they still watch them.
So Vines were what? Like that was like 7 seconds or 10 or something. It was something short.
Yeah, I was 15, I think.
Yeah, so
something like
that's where he came from.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
yeah. I mean, I thought he was I enjoyed the show actually.
But he played music well.
Right.
He's kind of pretty.
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, the girls were screaming for him.
Yeah, all the girls loved it.
There was like, oh my God, I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure there were some guys that loved it too.
There was a that like backed up to another show. What was it? I don't know, man.
I don't remember.
You know, so he was good. He performed well.
Yeah,
you know,
he was a great performer.
Filled up probably sold 15,000 tickets that night.
Easy.
Did really well with that.
Yeah.
And then that same month, I saw the New Kids on the Block come back, and they were with Salt and Peppa and Naughty by Nature and Tiffany.
Tiffany?
I think we're alone now.
Oh my God, that might have been before my time.
And Debbie Gibson.
Okay.
Do you remember Debbie Gibson?
I don't think so.
That was like maybe like that was in probably like 6th grade.
Oh.
But they were examples of radio one-hit wonders.
Sure, yeah.
So like Tiffany and Debbie Gibson, they both had like a couple hits, and then they came and they went. But those were driven by radio.
Yeah, exactly. There was a machine.
You get popular on the radio. Now that was like a whole different ballgame.
Exactly.
Like the promoters and people, they go around and
Yeah.
hey, play this album, and then they pull the record out, and there'd be $500 or $600 bills in there to kind of entice you to want to play it a little more. But you can't do that now. It's like, where do you listen?
I'm waiting for radio to get to a crippled point where I can say like.
I think it's there, man.
Well, yeah, it's almost there. I still can't go up to them and be like, hey, just play this.
I'm not gonna drop names, but radio is struggling compared to podcasting and stuff like that. Like we were talking about earlier, talking about how easy it is to put out content.
Mm-hmm.
So I have friends that do radio and they do podcasts with it, and we have equal to or more listeners here on Startup Hustle.
It makes a lot of sense.
Which is crazy, though. I don't have a radio tower, Kemet.
I know. What you kind of do, though.
Well, that's my point. We do. It's called the internet.
Exactly.
And that's cool, though. But I think you got to just kind of get out there and do it.
Yeah. I mean, it just comes down to good content. Like, I don't listen to a lot of radio because, like, the commercials they have are terrible. If they had good commercials, I'd listen, maybe.
Yeah, the commercials are terrible. And then sometimes the actual, like, the mission.
Right.
Like the whole mission of this is to like try to help entrepreneurs out and startups and obviously have interesting content, but also kind of tell those stories and at the same time not make it this isn't supposed to be an interview show. Yeah. It's supposed to be like conversations.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, radio, I'd be scared a little bit
if I were in the radio.
Yeah. I mean, I don't listen to radio. I haven't listened to radio in my car for 10 years.
I listen to like NPR. That's about it.
Sure, but you don't even need your radio to do that same thing.
Totally.
So NPR, that's gone through a pretty serious metamorphosis. But really, in the end, is the way to make music as a musician now on the stage.
Yeah, I mean, I would say to have the biggest impact, like you have to have a great live performance. Mm-hmm. I think so, at least. Either that, or you need to have some type of movement that's outside of the music itself.
Such as?
Well, I mean,
just be like being associated with something, like having the quote tribe.
Yeah, having the tribe. I think whether it's or just having an interesting story or like interesting association or interesting part about you, like if you're a dancer and you do like more than one thing. I mean, there's some artists out there that some visual artists that are performing artists that don't tap into the visual art, and I'm like, dude, you need to tap into that, like make that a thing.
Yeah, well, especially on the live. I mean,
exactly.
The whole live thing has really, 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 you're competing with so many different things.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
hard to get people to get up and get out.
Right.
And I mean, even things like the NFL is struggling with that because they created such an amazing product on TV, and then couple that with things like fantasy football. And
Man, yeah.
I'd just rather stay home and watch it
And
on
very
TV.
comfortable couches.
Yeah, on my couch. I don't have to deal with a
4K.
bunch of rowdy shit.
Yeah.
I don't have to go anywhere. But the problem is they're competing with themselves.
Exactly.
So they have a hard time filling up these big stadiums.
Well, that's why I guess they brought in Jay-Z.
Yeah, maybe.
It was
Did they?
Oh, man.
Is
Oh,
that
you
the
didn't
deal?
hear about Jay-Z?
No.
Yeah, I mean, it was part like a deal to kind of address some of the stuff that Kaepernick is talking about, but also, there's the Live Nation piece about that too.
Sure.
The performances, the halftime shows, all of that.
Well, and then Live Nation, and for those of you that Live Nation, I mean, Live Nation and Ticketmaster are the same company now. So and they couldn't compete with each other. So several years ago, they merged.
Yeah.
And they did that while I was in the midst of the ticket business. So they took the largest event promoter and venue owner and then had to merge it with the largest ticketing platform because they're trying to compete against each other, and they were terrible.
Yeah.
They were terrible at it. Honestly, if Live Nation wasn't so bad at their own ticketing system, I might not have ever gotten into that business.
Wow.
It's a completely
That's
different
crazy.
story. You can read about that in my book, $1 Million Bedroom. I won't bore everyone with it. So,
Yeah.
So obviously, so much of what we're talking about is marketing.
Yeah.
So how do you market yourself? Like, I mean, let's just talk about marketing in general and creating hype. It's tough to do.
It is tough to do, and what I'm doing now is just not turning down any opportunities to be in front of people. I think a lot of
one, be in front of people.
Absolutely, get out there, because one of the things that you can learn from any person running for an office, if you're not out in front of if you're not in front of the community, if you're not a part of it, then people won't.
Shaking babies and kissing hands, or the other way around, right?
Yeah, I'll try not to shake the babies, but yeah, it's just so basically what I'm doing now is just it's making sure that I'm out there as much as possible, and going on radio shows, going on podcasts like you, speaking to people, and a lot. The other thing that I'm doing.
That's how we met.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true.
It was like 3 years ago. Global Entrepreneur Week.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep. So the other thing I'm doing now.
And that's the reason I was doing that, just to get out.
Just to get out there.
Yeah, and then other things too. I think you learn a lot because what we're talking about is Global Entrepreneurship Week.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I'd signed up to give a couple presentations, and I can't remember which one you and your wife came by. I think you had been to maybe even more than one that week. I think I did 3 or 4 of them, which was a tough week because I got really sick the week before and I barely had a voice. But talking about being in front of people is, but there's more what you can do. You can be in front of people a lot of different ways now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
it doesn't have to be in person.
It doesn't. I mean, with the internet and
you got it. So you have to be consistent.
Yeah.
And you have to entertain.
Mm-hmm.
You have to educate, or you have to invoke emotion.
That's right. That's the big one.
Yeah, and then I think the biggest thing that people make mistakes about is the so what content.
What do you mean?
Just like so what? People are like, so many of the posts that people make, are like, you got to get people engaged. One of the things that Joel from Humphreys has really, really, really taught me a lot about over the years is the concept of tribe building.
Yeah.
And your tribe is your vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But anytime you can get people involved and the discussion begins or is centric around something you started or something you do. So what content is like, hey, I'm eating potato chips today.
Yeah. Like, okay.
So what?
Yeah.
So what? But a different example of that would be like, okay, if you really need to make a post about potato chips, you're like, man, you know what? The sour cream and onion ones are great, but what are the chips that really get you up? Like,
exactly.
Which potato chips would you eat for breakfast?
Oh.
That's not so what. That's now you're getting someone involved, and now
Yeah.
the debate starts. And like my first one of those was, I made a video about people that pour in the milk before the cereal.
Oh God.
There's
Why would
people
you
that
ever
do
do that?
I don't know, but you know what? The moment I found out about it, I was like, what? No way. It didn't even make sense to me. It was like, it just couldn't occur.
My stepson does that.
But dude, those people are like really adamant about defending why they do it.
I had somebody argue with me on Facebook about like when to put on the peanut butter on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
But dude, but the thing is all right. So the point is now now you're centric.
Yeah,
and they're
exactly.
talking.
They're talking
about you. So like as a musician with Humphreys and Humphreys McGee, and these guys did a great, because they've been around for 20, in January it'll be 21 years. And 20 years ago, we just mentioned, you weren't sharing, nothing was open source about the music. They went the opposite route. They said, come to our shows, record it, give it to your friends, do whatever we'll even make it easy. We'll even give you a section of the venue where you can come set up your recording gear.
Oh, that's cool.
So they open sourced it.
I like that.
And now that was, something that the Grateful Dead and Phish had kind of done before them, but the result was people were passing their tapes around, their music, and they were talking about it.
I like that.
And even though people will often be critical, and the jam band fans are the worst. They're like, I can't believe Jake missed a note in that third song. Like it ruined the whole night for him.
Right, yeah.
But the point is they're talking about you.
Yeah,
and
totally.
They're talking about what you do. But the whole goal with building your tribe is you want them to eventually find as much, if not more, value in their interaction with each other, as they do with whatever you're putting on the stage.
Totally, and that's the beautiful part about what I've been trying to do lately is get people around each other that are like-minded and not like-minded, and people that can engage with each other.
Yeah.
And really kind of have a conversation around what I put in the center for them to talk about. It's really cool. So one of the things I've been doing lately is listening parties. And so instead of performing the album, I'll play it, and then I'll talk about each song. I'll have people ask questions. If they want to talk to each other about it, they can do that if they want to. Because it was cool at the Electric Park listening party. I had people ask a question, then another person would ask them a question, and then they would ask me a question.
And that's the example. That's tribe building, because it gets people involved. And the thing is well, people aren't always going to agree.
Right.
Expecting them to, or expecting them to think everything you do or that you say is perfect or awesome is also not a reasonable expectation.
It's not, and honestly, it's the best way to fail.
Yeah. Well, and we talk about some of that in the book. Like, you can't, the one way to really, so not everyone's going to like every song you put out.
Exactly.
Is every song you write awesome?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Okay, you accept that, right?
There's songs that I've forgotten that I've made, and people are like, oh, what about that? I'm like, oh, what song is that? Yeah. I mean, I love every one of them. But you can't
be, if people are like, I don't like the song, you can't be like, yeah, but your best shit ain't better than my worst shit yet. You can't just come out and say that online, because people are like, that would be a terrible reaction.
It would be.
It
would be a reaction.
Song, but it would be a terrible reaction, because you have to be kind of practical about it.
Oh, totally.
Sometimes you can be funny with it too. Like, there's a YouTube video of Joel Cummins of Humphreys McGee, and he's reading mean tweets.
Oh, that's hilarious. I wish I had mean tweets.
He's just reading them almost in a narrative style.
Yeah. See, that's the other thing, is you need to find haters. I need to find more haters.
Okay, so let's look at earlier this year, or whenever it occurred, like Machine Gun Kelly and Eminem.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, okay, who benefited from that? Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, but just saying.
Right.
And I think some of that's intentional.
Yeah.
I have a feeling there was a call somewhere.
I'm sure.
Hey, man, did you see all this hype we created?
Right, yeah.
What's this worth?
Right, let's drop an album now.
Let's do an album. Because they sure did have those songs ready fast.
Oh, yeah, they weren't playing around.
Yeah, they were ready fast.
Yeah.
You know how hard dude, you don't record some of those songs in a day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I wrote the lyrics, I smoothed it out, I made a video.
Right.
You did all this in 3 days?
Exactly, yeah.
Man, that's tough, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been doing this for a decade.
That's right.
We didn't even get into this earlier, but you've performed and made music with people like Tech Nine.
Yeah.
The mayor. Well, the last mayor, I guess Quentin's the new mayor now. He's been in here.
Yeah, that's another thing.
But Mayor Sly James gave you a streetcar for a day to do a video in. That was pretty cool. I love that video.
That was
by
fun.
the way. And what's that song? That song's called Get Out.
Get Out. Yeah.
The KC streetcar song.
The streetcar song.
That's a good video, by the way.
Thank you.
So some of this all has contributed to the longevity. What do you think the keys are? All right. So you as a musician, you are on a personal branding mission.
Yeah.
Up and above anything else, right?
That's right.
So what are some keys to longevity for that? What do you think it takes to last?
Yeah, exactly. That's the question I'm faced with every day I wake up, how to stay relevant.
Me too.
Yeah,
trust me, me too.
I bet, man. And it's not just how to stay relevant, but how to because relevant, you're still on tedium. You really want to go on an upward trajectory.
That's the exact thing that was just in my head. It's like you have to be, if you're not doing something better than what you've done before, then like people, oh yeah, I mean, he's kind of on the decline.
Exactly. Even if you're like leveling out, you're still declining, in my opinion.
Well, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse.
That's right.
Or something.
So I'm just trying to find different ways to tap into more of evoke more emotion out of my fan base. Because I have a great fan base. I love all my fans. Thank you guys. But I would love for a more verbal fan base, people that are willing to really connect with other people about the art that's being put out there. But I think the biggest thing for me is to just make sure that they have all the tools they need to do that. And I realize that I haven't been doing that. I haven't been giving them those tools. I haven't been giving them the stories that they need to tell, the visuals that they need to share, all of that. So I'm just trying to make it more of an effort to make content that's relevant to myself, but also relevant to my fan base and people that have been there since day one, but also people that are new. And I want them to engage with each other and kind of build a community, build a tribe, if you will. Mm-hmm. That's really what I'm focused on.
And that's tough to do, man. Like, if you, whether it's as a musician or starting a podcast or writing a book, all right, so I'm 3 books in. I'm not at 12 yet.
Yeah.
I'm going to catch up. I'm going to try, but it's hard. It's a lot of work, man. It doesn't just, I could probably write a book in a month and put it on Amazon.
Oh, sure.
It wouldn't be that good.
Yeah.
It takes a while to kind of smooth these things out, and you got to kind of go through a process. But so many people have talked to me about they're like, I'm going to write a book and I want to write a book. And I almost always say, and I'm not trying to sound like a dick. I say like, well, how come you haven't written one yet? I don't know. I haven't started yet. Right. I'm like, well, you just told yourself exactly what you need to do. You need to start.
Exactly.
What do I need to do to start my book? You need to start writing.
Yeah.
Go home right now and start writing.
And just do it.
Right?
Yeah. That's kind of where I was on Electric Park, because as things change in my life, I used to be able to crank out content every single day.
You went kind of up and down on that, didn't you? Because, honestly, I'll call you out a little bit here. Like, I think you were kind of like, maybe earlier this year or a year ago, I don't know, we're friends on social media.
Mm-hmm.
You were either frustrated or something wasn't happening, because you were like, man, you had made a comment once. You're like, I don't know if I'm going to do an album again.
Yeah, exactly.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, like, and if you don't feel that once a day, then, what I'm saying, like,
entrepreneurs do.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Most people that meet me will describe me as confident. Mm-hmm. I'm well endowed with all the doubt I need, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, trust me.
Yeah.
Like, there's no one that isn't.
Exactly.
So what was sparking some of that? Were you just kind of like, I don't know, man?
I think I was just in a creative rut, and honestly,
can't force it.
Yeah, you can't force it. And I was just mad that I wasn't able to like the muse just wasn't there. So, I teamed up with Lenny, and, with Lenny, the executive producer of Electric Park. And really got a lot of those creative juices going. I was frustrated because I was like, dude, why isn't this coming? Like, why isn't this working right now? I feel like I had erectile dysfunction for a second. And I was just musical erectile dysfunction.
There's not a blue pill you can take that will fix that as a musician. I say the same thing about writing. Like, that's the hardest part. Like, I can't just say, okay, from 3 to 5, I'm going to write a book today.
Exactly.
Can you?
No.
Like, it's so weird too, because all right, so in the last book that came out, this is crazy, and I don't think I could ever do this. I wrote 12,000 words of that book in a 24-hour period.
Dude.
It was like literally on fire. Like, I told my wife, I was like, I need you to just leave me alone.
Yeah, totally.
Does that happen for you too?
Oh, like, yeah. When I get in that zone, I just gotta get.
I think that's the most important thing I've learned about being creative or feeling inspired over the years is when it comes, you have to wrap your arms around it and you hold on to it for as long as you can.
Exactly.
Because you do not know when it's going to happen again. Sometimes, like, they're in short, it can happen close, and then some people, like, your last feeling of inspiration may have been your last.
Exactly.
You never know, man.
Exactly.
So is that what was going on?
Man, yeah, and I was overthinking everything. And this was actually the first album where I just let it flow. I was just like, you know what, I'm not I'm not going to revise this 8 times, because when I do that, it's completely different from the first, from the original thought. And people won't, people just won't attach to it. Because
same thing with writing. I tell people, they're like, well, what if I had to give you one tip about writing a book? I would say, do not look in the rearview mirror. Just write as much as you can, and then go back and figure it out. Because every time you go and look back, or you go to fix something, like, dude, that's what an editor is for.
Exactly. And
so
you're gonna
my editor's like your producer.
Yeah.
I've used the same editor on all 3 books. His name's Patrick Price. If you want to check him out, go to askabookeditor.com.
Okay.
He's been the editor on a dozen New York Times bestsellers, and one of them was that. You remember that movie? She's Just Not That Into You. Or he discovered that.
Wow.
He was the editor on that. I mean, that sold millions of copies. Became a movie that grossed like 60, 80 million. But I don't know. It did a lot. But,
it was hot.
But he does a good job, because it's kind of like that muse. A producer does the same way. It's a producer's job to make you uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
And be like, nope, you're not going to do it this way. You're going to do it this way, but I've never done it that way. Exactly. So is that what Lenny did for you?
That's exactly what happened, and it was that's my brother, there was nothing hateful about it at all.
Is he literally your brother?
No.
Okay.
No. But
okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we're close like that.
Sure.
And he did challenge me.
And at some point it'll even piss you off.
I got pissed.
You'd be like, fuck you, I'm not doing it like that.
I mean, here's the deal.
Could you try it at least once?
Yeah. Well, I did do some things where I was just like, oh, that's different. All right, well, that's cool.
But that's a building block to like 10 other things that just, I don't know, man.
Well, what it allowed me to do was focus more on the larger concept and not so much on the technical side. And that's where I enjoy the technical side, but I'm more of a high-level person, I'm more of a dream big and chase after the big dream instead of like the underpinnings of everything. So that, and all my previous albums I've done nuts to bolts, just completely myself.
Yep.
This was the first time.
But that's tough. Because you get so close to it.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's the same thing. Like,
it's hard to let that
people
go.
said that about books. They're like, oh, I don't need an editor. I'm like, no, you do.
Yeah, you do.
Your book's going to suck if you don't have an editor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I'm not saying all my albums have sucked. I was just saying they're very, very raw compared to this one because...
No, they're good, man. Like, I mean, I've enjoyed them. But you can get too close to it.
Yeah, exactly.
That level of objectivity is important.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes with producers do weird shit, like with music, like they just have strange ideas. They're like, here's a jar full of pennies. I want you to rattle this in this microphone that's like sitting behind a shower curtain. You're like, why? Don't ask why, just do it.
Just do it, yeah.
And maybe you use it, maybe you don't, but it's just like weird stuff like that.
Well, I mean, producers are good producers, a fortune teller. You know, I think they're able to cast, into the future and say, hey, when this releases, this is going to be hot. It might sound weird right now, but when this thing drops, people are going to be like, oh, shit, like, this is awesome. So that's kind of where I was. Instead of being stuck in this, like, in the beginning stages and, like, down in the mud like I usually am, from, mixing, mastering to producing to writing to releasing to marketing, like, all of that, I was able to focus more on, like, the entire concept and the visuals, because I'm also a visual artist. Like, I love visual art. I'm a graphic designer and stuff like that too. So I was able to collaborate with a photographer, a script writer, for my album cover, and I made a color palette. I was able to like put the colors on a downtown building, and like I wouldn't have been able to do this if it wasn't for him.
What's harder, naming your album or making the cover art?
None of those
or naming your band.
Actually, none of those have actually been very difficult for me.
Because you're lucky, because most people, like, you've never seen a band fight more.
Oh, really?
Than trying to figure out
the band name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of fell into place with the Phantastics. It was kind of just a beaubeautiful thing. But
every dude in Humphreys McGee will tell you that they regret naming that band Humphreys McGee.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because it's not. They'll all tell you. I mean, this isn't something like. I mean, I'm not talking shit here. This is just a fact. They're like, we sound like an Irish bar band.
That's kind of true.
I mean, it is, but it's like, that's just like where it started and then it's stuck. And,
I think,
like,
Any two names that sound like two last names are very catchy. So
Sure.
I think.
Well, it definitely made them stand out, but it doesn't. I don't know. Like they've all, like every member of that band. I've known those dudes for over a decade and still hang out with them and whatever. And they'll tell you the same thing.
That's hilarious.
So we should have picked a different name.
Yeah.
I said, well, why didn't you? I said, I don't know. It's just where we started. We didn't. Sometimes you start stuff and you don't realize you're still going to be doing it 20 years later.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how the best stuff starts.
Yeah. Well, as long as you put a movement behind it, like honestly, the name's not gonna matter.
So, a couple things here.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had Billboard hits. You've been number one on iTunes in the jazz category.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, congrats, by the way.
Thank you. That was a huge day.
Dude, people don't realize how. Okay, so I did the same thing. So there are 32 million books for sale on Amazon right now.
Wow.
And I look at like the day our book came out, it climbed up to like the 3,000th most popular book on Amazon.
Wow.
And and then I showed my dad that, and he was like, it doesn't seem that great. And I'm like,
are you serious?
Well, I mean, he was like, yeah, but
yeah,
he's like, he didn't really, because people don't really realize the scope of like how much is out there.
Yeah, true.
I mean, that was the that was 99.999.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's hard to stay there, but
right.
There is a sea of content out there. And the same thing with music, and people are just making more of it and piling it on. You have the whole entire history of music. So
that's why it needs to be bigger than the music. Bigger than a book.
Yeah. I say the same thing about a business. I say if you're going to, you need to try to make your business bigger than you.
Yeah.
Because that's something that matters. Like, have you built something that would outlast you?
Right. Remove yourself.
Well, look at some of the hits. I mean, like some of the things we'll still listen to. Like, I mean, the quote, we'll just use classic rock as an example. Like, well, those dudes aren't around anymore. That music's still popping.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of shit that's been forgotten.
Absolutely.
So I have this theory that the world's greatest album was never heard.
Okay.
Because it was marketed poorly.
Absolutely.
Do you think that could be true?
Oh, that's definitely true.
Okay. Like I think that's the kind of a key point. Like, you got to market what you're doing. You got to get out there. You got to, like I said, invoke emotion. You got to, so I say I democate, which is demonstrate and educate.
Okay, I like that.
You demotain or edutain.
Edutain.
Yeah,
I like that.
edutainment.
Yeah, that's cool.
About some of the urbanist stuff, and like a lot of your music does hit those topics. So do me a favor and go to wherever you listen to music and throw Kemet the Phantom in the search. And just download all of them. And check them out.
Yeah, start from the very beginning and get to Electric Park. Like you'll be on a wild ride.
I like some of my favorites. I like the Streetcar song, "Get Out."
Thanks.
I like that's just funky.
It's a fun song.
Do you know we used one of the episodes of Startup Hustle? That's the outro.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and because it's like, I got a pocket full of $100 bills.
Yeah.
I was like, who wants to get paid? Who wants to get laid?
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, me.
Yes, paid and laid.
Right here, hand up in the air on that one. And then I like, what is it? Pour some liquor out.
Yep, pour some liquor.
Yeah, that's like one of my gym songs.
Yeah, it pumps you up.
So thanks. I mean, I'm 44 years old. I don't get so pumped up as much as I just need to like actually get up.
Yeah, just get up.
I like that album too. And what was that? That
was called The Invisible Man.
Yeah. And just started listening to Electric Park. I dig it.
Yeah.
I dig it.
It's a sonic. It's a interstellar.
Yeah. Isn't there a payphone song in there?
Yeah.
What's a payphone?
I don't know. My kids have no idea what they are.
It's funny because my wife's 11, 12 years younger than me, and I was telling her a story once. I was like, yeah, when I grew up, I had a Bee Gees record player, and it played 45s.
Wowzers.
And my wife was like, how old are you? Like she had never listened to vinyl.
Oh, really?
Completely missed that whole era.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
That's nuts.
Do you put your albums out on vinyl?
I want to.
Have you?
I haven't yet.
I have a bunch of Humphreys albums on vinyl, actually,
wow.
and they put them out and they make them like really like vibrant colors. Like I've got some orange ones, some green ones. If you put a light behind them, they look really wild. But they're all signed by the band. They're framed and.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that. I'm totally for that, especially because, another thing that I'm trying to do as far as like putting music out there is I want to drop an album. That's fine. Everybody can consume that, but then release something else that either you can hold or you can download exclusively that has more content.
That's what I like about it. It's like you used to be able to hold it.
Yeah.
And now it's all digital.
Now it's all digital.
If the internet just disappears.
Then what happens?
Will the complete archive of music
Yeah.
go with it? So
Yeah.
anyway, go check out Kemet the Phantom. Download his songs.
Mm-hmm.
Check them out. Share them with someone. Do something.
Please.
Are you Kemet the Phantom on the gram and
Yep.
other places?
On IG, I'm Kemet the Phantom. That's spelled Kemet.
Mm-hmm.
The Phantom.
Just like the title of this episode.
That's right.
Kemet the Phantom, which you can see. I've captured a picture of the Phantom. It's on the @Startup Hustle podcast Instagram.
For the first time.
If you get a chance, you need some help building the stuff that you need to make your entrepreneurial dreams come true, check out fullscale.io. We help people find programmers and make dreams come true. Wow. Yeah.
Amazing stuff you got going,
It's a
man.
lot of
Thank
work,
you.
man. I can't believe how big it got
You're
so
huge.
fast, and coming up on a couple hundred employees.
It's full scale, man.
Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy. Watson's over there right now, man.
That's
We
right.
traveled 8,500 miles to find the resources that we need as entrepreneurs. And
Wow.
we went to where they were plentiful so we could make them
Mm-hmm.
affordable for the other people around. There just aren't people to do these jobs, man. It's been kind of tough. So.
Wow.
But yeah, if you want to check us out, if you want to check me out on Instagram, you can go to @DeCoursey Matt. I'm not quite as exciting as all the other stuff. But anyway, Kemet, thanks for coming in today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Looking forward to seeing y'all on the next episode. See you next time.